Great. Thanks so much. I want to thank the BRN staff for getting all the ducks lined up in a row. So glad to see everyone. Thank you for being here today. We're going to do a call to order and a roll call. So I'm going to go ahead and start down the list. So Garrett Chan here, Janine Graves. Janine, can you come off mute?
Yes, I'm here. Could you hear me, Garrett?
You're off mute, but I can't hear you.
I can hear you, Janine.
Thank you.
Still can't hear you, Janine.
So some people can't
I'm going to
hear.
go on. We'll see if we can get you troubleshooted.
Darren, are you able to hear
Garrett,
anybody?
can you hear us?
That's even a word.
No, Garrett
Dr.
can't
hear
hear
us. Garrett, can you hear us?
Tanya, can you hear us?
Garrett, can you hear us?
I can't hear you.
Garrett.
I
go.
can't hear you. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hold on for just a second. Let me see. It must be me, of course.
Say something.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Garrett. I'm not sure if you could hear us.
Ah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Yay, looks like it's fixed.
Welcome, Garrett.
Thanks. Always user
just
error.
a reminder.
My apologies.
No worries.
All right, great.
Just a reminder for the
I can
panelists.
hear you. You can hear me. Excellent. So, Tanya, are you there? Sorry. Okay, great. Thank you. Dr. Tammy Ventel?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Jennifer Zhang Ma, is she here? No, I don't see her. Wendy Hansborough, Dr. Hansborough?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, thank you. Dr. Saji Guzman. Hi, thank you, Saji. Kim Do is off the committee. Dr. Hazel Torres, I don't see. Barbara Barney Knox, I also do not see. Kathy Hughes.
Kathy Hughes here.
Thanks, Kathy. Jacqueline Bowman, Dr. Bowman.
Hi, can you hear me? This
Yep.
is Jacqueline Bowman. I'm here. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jacqueline. Carmen Comsty.
Good morning, Carmen Comsty here.
Good morning, Carmen. Thank you. Dr. Joanne Spatz is not with us, and Sandra Miller is also not with us. Okay, great. Excellent. So we have a quorum. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move to the next item. So Mark, please, can you give the general instructions, please?
Sure, and before I do that, if you can turn your cameras on, we need all cameras on, please. All
Mark,
right.
are you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
You're able to hear me, Mark?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I was trying to interrupt earlier to make sure to remind everybody to have cameras on, as that is the Bagley-Keene requirement for doing videos. Doing the committees remotely. So if you guys are not able to be on camera, please let us know if there's a technical issue or something that is blocking that. And we will make sure that that is noted and we can move forward. So I think we're waiting for Janine and Kathy to come on camera if they can.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out on my end because normally it comes right on. So now I got to figure out how to turn it on.
No worries. So that's the technical difficulty that you're experiencing, and that's okay. We will continue to move forward as we wait for you to, as you are working through that.
Janine.
Then Janine, are you able to come on camera?
I'm just like Kathy. I think it's a Stutter Health firewall. So something that sometimes works is I'll log off and log right back on and it will connect. So if you see me gone for 10 seconds, that's why.
Okay,
If
'cause
you
I don't
want
even
to,
see her camera
yeah, I
available.
don't even see the camera showing up available either. At this point, we can continue, and then when we take a break or something, you guys can try to do that. I would hate for you to log off and not be able to get back on. And then that way we can move forward with this. But we do know that you guys have some technical difficulties that will be noted, and we'll continue to work with that as we move forward. So at this point, board moderator, you can continue with item 2.0.
Perfect. Good morning. This is the BRN moderator. I will be moderating the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the committee reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. We will also query our location here in HQ. I understand we do have a person in attendance, and they will let us know if that person does want to make a comment. I will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. I will not give a warning as your time approaches. I will mute your microphone and will announce that your time has exceeded the time allotted. I will then proceed to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. When your turn comes, you will be prompted to unmute. If your question can be answered, the committee will respond accordingly. When making your comment, please speak about anything you believe is important for the members to know. Remember, committee members cannot address any item not on the agenda. Items not on the agenda at that moment, items that you would like to add to future meetings, or items that will be discussed later on the agenda will be discussed at their correct times during the meeting. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when committee members or BRN staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphones. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of an unmuted microphone, I will mute your microphone automatically.
Thank you so much. We can go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is 3.0, public comments for items not on the agenda. And this is items for future agendas. And per the agenda, I'm just going to read this note. So the committee may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda for a future meeting. So this is an opportunity for the public to come on mic and share with us your ideas or concerns or things that you would like us to know. And then we may be able to put it on a future agenda. So, Lori, I know that I think Reza's on a leave of absence. Do we have another person from legal counsel on this call?
I do. His name is Harry, and let's make sure that he is elevated and on here as well. I think I did see him in attendance. Do you see him, board moderator? Yep, he is on and elevated. Yes.
Great. I'm sorry, you said Harry?
Yeah, his name is Harry Skaletsky.
Oh,
He is legal counsel for DCA, and he is sitting in while Reza is enjoying being a new father.
great. Awesome. Harry, welcome. For some reason, I don't see you, but that's just probably me. Okay, excellent. So, board moderator, can you please open the session for public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. BRN HQ, do we have any comments in attendance there? Anybody who wants to make a comment?
No, we do not have comments.
Thank you. Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no public requests for comments in HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Great, excellent. So the next agenda item is to review and vote on whether we should approve the previous meeting minutes from March 7th, 2024. So I'm going to open it up for discussion to the NEWAC members. Are there any comments, questions, concerns, or edits? I don't see any hands, or please feel free to speak up because I'm trying to see everybody. No? Okay, well, I make a motion to accept and approve the meeting minutes as in the packet from March 7th, 2024. May I get a second, please?
I'll second. This is Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen. I appreciate it. Carmen seconded. So I'd like to open it up for a public comment.
We'll be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, I would like to make a comment. Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no public requests for comments in HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
So I'm actually going to make the next item is supposed to be 6.0, which is a report from the 7 NEWAC subcommittees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reorder the agenda and move 7.0 up to the next item that we're going to speak to. And the reason I would like to do that is because we received a letter from an organization
Garrett,
called
can
the
I
Quad
interrupt really quick?
Council. And
Garrett?
that's an item 7.0, which may or may not have an effect on our subcommittees. And so I'd like to discuss this letter first.
Totally can, but I do need to interrupt really quick. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We need to do 5.0, the regarding the meeting dates.
Oh, I'm sorry,
first, so we
5.0.
Set our calendar, please. And then I'm totally okay to reorder and do 7.0 before we do the report out. However, I want to make sure that we understand the agenda item 6.0, and that is just a basic report out. We have not made anything on our agenda where we could alter subcommittees, change subcommittees or do a more extensive report on the subcommittees. In order to do that, we would have to have an agenda item specifically for that. So I just wanted to make sure that that was very clear, that as we report out, that 6.0 should not change if we reorder it based on 7.0, just so that you guys are very clear, because the agenda item is that it's just to report out and not to change anything on the
Right.
committees.
That's a
Okay.
good point, Lori. Thanks for reminding us now. And I'd also like for you to remind me again right before we talk about 6.0. The only reason why I'm not sure if people have made any advancements on their subcommittees, but some of these details from the letter may inform the current subcommittees as they think about, their report out. So
Yeah, absolutely. So,
let's move to, let's move then to 5.0. I'm
Sounds great.
getting ahead of myself. So 5.0 is discussion and possible action about meeting dates for 2025. And in your packet, we do have a suggested number of dates, or actually 2 dates that have been suggested for the meeting next year in the spring and then the fall. It's on page 19 of your packet. Mark, if you could just advance the slide to the 5.0, that would be great. So the two proposed dates for the NEWAC meeting are
Garrett,
March
Garrett,
3rd, 2025.
can I interrupt,
Garrett.
Garrett?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
thank you.
sorry.
We did
I'm
not
way
get
ahead
a
of my.
vote.
Thank
We
you,
are.
Mark.
We did not get a vote.
I'm a
on
little rusty.
4.0.
I got to get back in the swing of things. Thank you. So we didn't have any public comment. We
Yes.
need to go to discussion. Any further discussion from the committee members on 4.0? Thank you.
And then we also need to vote on 4.1.
Right. In my list of actions to take in order, and please correct me, is introduction of the item, discussion by the members, motion, second, public comment, discussion, vote.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So any further discussion from the NEWAC committee members? Okay, seeing none, I will go to the vote. So Garrett Chen, yes. Janine Graves?
Yes.
Thanks, Janine. Tanya Altman?
No.
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, yes, vote yes.
Thanks, Tanya. Tammy Ventel?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Tammy. Jennifer Zhang Moi, not present. Wendy Hansbrough?
Yes.
Thanks, Wendy. Saji de Guzman?
I will abstain. I was not here last meeting.
Great, thanks, Saji, for your abstention. Hazel Torres? Not here. Barbara Byrne Knox is also not here that I can see. Kathy Hughes?
I was absent as well, so I abstain.
Okay, great, thank you. Jacqueline Bowman?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Jacqueline. Carmen Comsty?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Carmen. Joanne Spetz is not here and Sandra Miller is not here. So we don't. Lori, can you help me here?
The people that were in attendance voted. The people that abstained, what could be made as a motion from them is they could vote to accept the minutes as is, assuming they are correct. So they don't have to be present for that, because we do also have our audio recordings, our video recordings, etc. And so they could choose to change their vote for that to go through, or we can bring this to the next NEWAC committee when we have more members in attendance and get the meeting minutes passed at that point. So whatever their comfort level is, they could either change their vote based on review of the meeting minutes with the recordings, or they can continue to go abstained and we move this agenda item to the next NEWAC.
This is Kathy Hughes. I did listen to the WebEx recording, and so I can approve the minutes as is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
This is Saji, and I also watched the whole of the video, and I will move to approve the minutes as is.
Thank you so much, Saji. Okay, excellent. If I counted correctly, and I seem to be off today, I think we got everybody to say yes. So the motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
That's what I have.
I will get my head on
Everybody
straight.
passed.
So excellent. All right, thank you. Let's move to 5.0. All right, 5.0 is we meet twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. And we have 2 dates that have been recommended by the Board of Registered Nursing, March 3rd, 2025 and September 11th, 2025. So let me get my list out. So that's the introduction. Any discussion from the NEWAC members?
The basic ask is for you guys to look at your calendar and see if you guys can attend those dates. If those 2 dates are something that you guys can block on your calendar and attend, and there's no special anniversaries, birthdays, or travel dates, we can go ahead and accept those dates as is and move forward. If you do have something planned and you will not be able to attend, sorry, I think I'm right with you, Garrett, then we can look at proposing a different date.
Hi, this is Saji. Can you repeat the dates, please?
Yes. March 3rd, 2025 and September 11th, 2025.
This is Tanya Altman. March 3rd is a Monday, and it's very difficult for me to attend Mondays. I have campus meetings.
March 3rd is actually best for me. This is Saji again. And the September 11 is a Thursday, so that will be hard for me.
I would agree with Tanya. This is Wendy. Mondays at schools of nursing are awful.
We're willing to entertain any other date in March. Would the 4th or the 5th work? Not the 5th. Hang on, let me pull that up. Yes, the 4th or the 5th are options as well, a Tuesday or a Wednesday that first week of March. Is there any preference?
The 5th is okay for me.
Okay, Wednesday the 5th is
Wednesday
good for Saji.
Yes.
The 5th is better for Tanya as well.
This is Kathy. I prefer the 5th over the 4th. Thanks.
Okay.
Tammy, the 5th works fine for me.
I'd agree with the 5th too.
Okay, and then as we look at September, Saji was saying the 11th, which is a Thursday, would not work for him. Would the Wednesday the 10th be favorable for people to adopt? That's why we're consistent with Wednesdays and the first week or 2 of September.
I am good for September 10th, Wednesday.
This is Tanya. I'm good for the 10th as well. It's good.
This is
This is
Kathy.
Tammy. Oh,
It's-
go ahead. Well, this is Tammy. The 10th is fine.
So it looks like the new proposed dates are Wednesday, March 5th and Wednesday, September 10th. Is that correct?
Kathy, did you say the 10th was okay for you for September? Oh, you did. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. All right. So the new proposed dates are, as you said, are March 5th and September 10th. Okay. So may I have a motion for March 5th and September 10th, 2025? Or I'll make the motion. I will make the motion that we're going to meet March 5th and September 10th, 2025.
I move to second the motion.
Thanks, Saji. Okay. We need to open up for public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no public requests for comments at HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have any further discussion from the committee? If not, I'm going to go to the vote. So the vote is for March 5th and September 10th, 2025. So Garrett Chan votes yes. Janine Graves?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Janine. Tanya Altman?
Yes.
Thanks, Tanya. Tammy Ventel?
I vote yes.
Thanks, Tammy. Jennifer Xiaoma? No. Wendy Hansborough?
I vote yes.
Thanks, Wendy. Sajida Guzman? Yep. Can you?
I vote yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Saji.
Thank you.
Hazel Torres
my
is
mic.
absent. Barbara Barney Knox is absent. Kathy Hughes?
Kathy Hughes, yes.
Thanks, Kathy. Jacqueline Bowman?
Yes.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Carmen Comsty?
Yes.
Thanks, Carmen. Joanne Spetz is absent and Sandra Miller is absent. So the motion carries. And those will be the dates. Thank you. Okay, excellent.
Before we move forward, I just have a point. I'll say, I don't know if it's a point of order, but I want to make sure there's no restriction of the location that we are in right now. We're attending this meeting.
It's a good question, Saji.
Restriction
Lori, do
attending
you
this
have
meeting.
any updates?
Can you clarify? Is that, are you asking whether or not we're still being able to hold these virtually next year? Is that the ask?
Saji, can you hear us?
I'll do my best to answer the question, and hopefully, Saji, you could hear us, and we'll work with you to excuse me, get any technical issues cleared real quick. So currently, the Bagley-Keene provisions are set to go through November, through 2025. So we are able to continue to hold all of our advisory committees remote. And so we will continue to do it in the way that we have it set up right now, where we will all come in from a remote location. We will hold one physical location open, and we have done that at Department of Consumer Affairs. The Chief of Legislation, Macaulay Fusarins, is there. And she is holding that location open with a copy of all of our materials. She does have access to the public. We do have a public member there, and the public member is able to participate in that area. And so at that point, members are not required to notice their locations other than that one public location. So you guys can participate as is right now in this manner. It is different for our board members. And so our board meetings are held in person with a quorum in person.
Thank you. Although I just want to notify that I was cut off for probably 10 seconds before you're speaking. So, but I think I got the conclusion that we are not restricted on any location, that we are attending the remote meeting for this new WAC subcommittee.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Correct. We've had advisory committees under these Bagley Keene, new Bagley Keene limits attend from out of state as well. And that's perfectly acceptable at this point because we do have the location in state and we are not required to notice specific locations of each of our members.
Right.
You guys are, however, still required to reside in state in order to maintain your membership of an advisory member, but you can participate remotely in a different location as we are now.
Thank you. So noted.
Thank you, Saji. Thank you, Lori, for the clarification. It looks like we can still do it remotely until, as you said, November 2025. Thank you. Helpful.
It's actually through November 2025. Sorry, I was misspeaking at that point. So it's through 2025 as it says.
You probably said it, and I probably said it incorrectly. I'm having difficulty with my audio, so actually I'm hearing you, but super faintly. So I'm reading the closed captioning. So today is not my day. So awesome. All right. Moving to, we're gonna move to, I reordered the agenda to talk about item number 7.0. Nope, sorry. Yes, the 7.0. I was, if you, in the meeting materials on page 23 in the PDF, you'll see this is what we call an agenda item summary. It gives a summary of what the agenda item is supposed to be. I just noted that I missed a typo. It's agenda item number 7.0 at the top, and that's why I got confused. My apologies. NEWAC and the BRN received a letter from Dr. Kimberly Long, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of California Nurse Leaders, ACNL, on behalf of the Quad Council. And the Quad Council consists of the following individuals and organizations. So Dr. Kimberly Paris, who's the president of the California Association of Colleges of Nursing, or CACN, along with Evangeline or Angie Fingonil Gagalang, who's the president-elect for CACN, Ina Trevethan, who's the president of the California Organization of Associate Degree Nursing North. That should be North. And then Sandra Melton, Dr. Sandy Melton is the president of COADN South. And then Dr. Marketa Huskova, who's the executive director of the American Nurses Association in California. They've asked for, we received that letter on August 13th. And so right before our planning meeting. And so we were able to include the letter in the agenda packet. And there were 4 concerns that the Quad Council has raised. And so I see that Dr. Long is on the in the attendee list. So I would like to elevate her to, give kind of an overview of the letter. Everybody should have been able to read this because it's in your meeting materials. And there are 4 concerns, and I'll just read them. Concern number 1 is unnecessary and redundant oversight of nursing education programs, which inhibit innovation, flexibility, and program management. Concern number 2 is the BRN nursing education consultant inconsistency of interpretation and application of regulations and requirements. Concern number 3, there are high BRN fees for certification in nursing education, as well as transparency and the rationale for increased fees. And then concern 4 is a recent statewide survey of California nursing deans and directors. 78% indicated that rules and regulatory requirements decrease their effectiveness as a nursing program as deans and directors. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to elevate Dr. Long to give us any more kind of context beyond this letter. And then I would also like Lori after that to talk about things that NEWAC can talk about, and then things that are kind of like the fees are really outside of our purview. And so there are going to be things that we welcome and we're thankful for the community in bringing forward to the BRN, and just recognize that there are some things that we can talk about that are within our charter, and there are some things that are not. And Lori can help us navigate through
Lori,
that.
Mr. Chair.
So,
I'm sorry,
Garrett, are you able to hear Saji? Saji is
Before we,
trying
Saji.
to-
before we elevate the head of the Quad Council, can we discuss first what are the, what can we do about this, since we already read it? I think everybody read this letter, and in conclusion, when I read it, the only thing that they want is to work with them. That's it. So I don't know if we want to elaborate further if that's the only thing that they want.
I think, Saji, I'd like to have the authors of the letter speak first, because it is their letter. And then after that, I'll have Lori speak.
I'm okay with moving forward with that, Saji. I appreciate that. We'll let Dr. Long speak. These are concerns that have been raised several times throughout the history of BRN. And I would love to give some background. There have been some items that have been cleared up already. And I just want to make sure that that's out and clear. And the other benefit is we do have a legislative staffer on our call right now. We have a sunset bill in the near future. And that's where a lot of these items are discussed as well. So I welcome the discussion. I welcome just having the transparency and getting this out and getting the information shared, and just really kind of hearing it. So it is pretty much the only agenda item that's left, and we do have time for this. So there are four concerns that were brought forward. And at this point, Dr. Long, if you want to share some background or some insight into this letter, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you very much, and I promise to be succinct in my comments. The Quad Council has had multiple meetings. We meet every other month, and the purpose of that is to try to figure out how we can work collaboratively with other entities that have influence, impact over nursing, the nursing pipeline, and so forth, so that we can make sure that our efforts are aligned and that we're not working crosshairs with each other. Because the bottom line, as we all know as nurses, is that if we don't have a proper nursing pipeline and we don't have properly trained nurses in hospitals, then our community suffers, and we don't want that to happen. So as the gentleman mentioned, the letter has been reviewed, so I won't be redundant in repeating those things, but I do want to make sure that, yes, you are right, sir. What we're trying to do is try to work together and remove barriers that may be in place, redundancies, inconsistencies, so that our individuals, deans and directors and faculty at our academic settings can have a smooth way of working to get people through the nursing programs and into the nursing workforce. The oversight, that's really a primary one. And my hope is that after this conversation, we can figure out a way to sit down together, look at what BRN must do, look at what the academic organizations must do, and figure out a way that we can work collaboratively and collectively to make that happen in a seamless way. The second concern is the interpretation. For quite a few years, we've heard concerns about the different NECs interpreting the regulations differently. And that applies not only across the NECs, but it could be different NECs at the same school. And one will criticize something that a previous one approved. So we just want to make sure that whatever the interpretation of the regulations are, that those interpretations are consistent, that the schools are aware of what the expectations are, and that those expectations are consistent so that they can make sure that they are aligned with what the expectation is. I do also understand that the BRN fees are outside of your control. We did want to just make people aware. There are other organizations that are working to try to, for example, work with some of the pre-licensure students and provide supplements for them so that they can get into the workforce. Because unfortunately, we've heard from some of the students that they go through the nursing programs, but they don't have the money to pay for their licensure. So they're still not able to get licensed. And that's a tragedy. We don't want to see that happen. And then the last one has to do with the deans and directors. You know that it's very difficult to recruit deans, directors, and faculty now because of things that are not under the control of BRN, but we do want to try to figure out a way, again, that all of us can work together in concert so that we can streamline things, have more consistency, and make sure that the pipeline to our nurses who are serving our community is a smooth one. We all want to cooperate. We're not an us and them, but we need to make sure that everybody understands the entire universe of this process. We understand what the BRN has to do. The BRN understands what academia must do. Academia understands what service must do so that we can work together as a collective and make sure that we get this done in a manner that serves our community properly. So I'll just stop right there. I don't want to be redundant, but I wanted to make sure that I provided some clarification on that. Thank you, Dr. Chan, for the time.
Thank you, Dr. Long, for that. I appreciate it. And before I turn it over to Lori, I will just say that I'm thankful to the public for bringing forward the concerns that you have so that we can engage in a dialogue. That's what NEWAC is for. And then also to provide advice to the Board of Registered Nursing, not just the staff, but also to the larger, the Nursing Practice Committee and then the larger full board. I will note that some of these things are persistent. We identified health impact, collaborated with the Board of Registered Nursing back in 2018 and did 7 regional summits. And the report was published in January of 2019 that mirrored some of these issues. And so, again, it's great to hear perspectives and really trying to figure out how we can reduce workload and redundancy whenever possible, and also ensure that we maintain public safety, because that is the Board of Registered Nursing's job, and we're doing it well, and we want to continue to do it well. So thank you for joining us. And Lori, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to go one by one in order, and I'll stop and have anybody ask any questions and facilitate any further discussion so that we can kind of get through some of these issues. I think that you guys will see a lot of the progress that has been made and maybe get a good understanding of our pathway forward so that I think it'll clear up a lot. So fingers crossed as we move through this. So the very first item was discussing unnecessary and redundant oversight of nursing programs which inhibit innovation, flexibility, and program management. The call out specifically on that was for the 5-year recency requirement that we have in place as a law here, and saying that it is short-sighted. So I'll give some background on that. That is one of the requirements for an approved faculty member for California. And so in order for that to be clear, I actually have to back up to say what is required to be an approved faculty member for California. California has one of the least restrictive faculty requirements in the nation. You can get in as a clinical teaching assistant with no degree requirement and 1 year experience at the bedside in the last 5 years. That allows for that clinical teaching assistant to help pass meds and clinicals, help out in the laboratory setting. They cannot hold a theory position or an official faculty of record position. but that is a lot of times used as a pathway in. We're looking at all these kind of different pathways into nursing, supporting that professional growth. And that's one of the rarities that California offers that other states do not. The next pathway into faculty for California is called the assistant instructor. That again is another rarity that is offered throughout the nation. And that allows a RN that is licensed, that has a bachelor's degree, to be a faculty of record for a clinical group. They can come in as adjunct or part-time staff, full-time staff, and they can manage a clinical group on their own. As we know, clinical groups do not typically grant your passing grades and stuff. They facilitate that with the instructor on record, which is that theory instructor, right? And so because of that, they can have a bachelor's degree and they can maintain that clinical group by themselves. They can teach as many clinical groups as they want, and they can be adjunct, part-time, full-time. That is up to the academic setting. That is different than any of the accreditors, right? So this is a step below what the accreditors require. All of your accreditors require a master's at minimum and a doctoral degree preferred. And so this is what California BRN has done to really help facilitate the pathway into faculty and really open that up to people that want to get a taste of it before they maybe go back and get their master's or their terminal degree, and see if academia is really where they want to be at. This also allows for them to get in that 1-year teaching experience as an assistant instructor, so that when they do get their master's degree, they're able to roll right over into that instructor position. If you're coming in cold and you have not had a class where you've been responsible for teaching, you have a master's degree, you still have to teach 1 year as an assistant instructor, a step below, in order to be granted that instructor position. And so those are some of the reasons why California BRN has different standards than your accrediting agencies to really facilitate that pathway in. And that truly has been something that has been seen as helpful, so much so that the California Community College Chancellor's Office just changed their minimum quals to mirror BRN, so that they can now get the person with an associate degree or diploma in as a clinical teaching assistant, and or a bachelor's degree in as an assistant instructor, prior to them having a master's degree and being on that pathway. So that just happened just last month, I believe, and was just adopted by all of the California community colleges with that. And that's a huge step forward, we believe. So that's been a big change. When we look at that 5-year recency requirement, that is something that is evidence-based. And where that comes from is National Council of State Boards of Nursing. And National Council of State Boards of Nursing, they're the ones that put out the simulation study where you can go up to 50%, et cetera. And they're world renowned and known for really doing robust research. And in 2020, they put out a report called Nursing Education Approval Guidelines. And if you guys are interested in that, we actually had Nancy Spector from NCSBN just presented our board meeting last month, where she went over these approval guidelines and why they were important. And she shared that journal article, and it is a landmark study on nursing education quality indicators. And that, I think, is the shift that really needs to be focused on as we look at this. In the past, it has been something where BRN has been thought to just, we come in and we approve and we move and we approve and we move, and that's how that's done. What we're doing is we're basing these on the public protection and a nursing program. When you look at that, how does that affect public protection? Nursing program public protection really comes down to, do you have a program that can appropriately educate the students that you enroll? And are you able to grant fulfill that contract, that admission contract. So that admission contract that that student takes says, I will be able to hopefully graduate from this program successfully and obtain licensure. And that's where we come in and review programs to ensure that that can happen. We look at budget, we look at resources, we look at student involvement, we look at faculty qualifications and involvement, clinical sites that can be utilized to ensure that the objectives are met. We make sure that you're able to do program evaluations, et cetera. There's a lot that is within that. And part of this study that NCSBN did pointed out that a quality indicator based on the evidence is that faculty, excuse me, hold a graduate degree, that faculty at a minimum, 35% of that faculty, including all clinical adjunct, part-time and or faculty, are employed at the institution as full-time faculty. That faculty can demonstrate that they have been educated in basic instruction of teaching and adult learning principles and curriculum development. And that goes on to include methods of instruction, teaching in clinical practice setting, teaching in simulation settings, how to conduct assessments, including test item writing and managing difficult students. That faculty can demonstrate participation in clinical and continuing education related to nursing education and adult learning pedagogies. That the school provides substantive and periodic workshops and presentations devoted to faculty development. That they offer formal mentoring of new full-time and part-time faculty, and it takes place by established peers. Formal orientation of adjunct clinical faculty, and that clinical faculty have up-to-date clinical skills and have had experience in direct patient care in the past 5 years, and that simulation faculty are certified. So as you guys can see, that BRN required with 5 years direct patient care in the past for clinicals is in alignment with the evidence of this 2020 landmark study. And nursing, we do know that we practice evidence-based practice, and that is something that we utilize. Now, to play devil's advocate with that, we also know that some of our programs do hold a accreditation. And with that accreditation and our sunset bill, there was many changes that came out from that. And I'm trying to find that for you real quick, just so that I could reference it. And one of those changes is that if you guys hold at the school, sorry, that if the school holds a active accreditation, that it is not required that you guys seek faculty approval through the BRN any longer. And so that was clarified last year at the COADN conference in the, this year in the spring, and then at the CACN conference in the spring as well. And that is something that is new and something that we're still kind of working through. And I know that that's a little hard for you guys to understand, because just until the spring of this year, we were saying that all faculty still had to be approved by the BRN. It was in meetings as we were looking at the legislative proposal of AB 2015, which is the BRN faculty approval bill, that it was brought up to us that maybe the BRN was interpreting that incorrectly. And we were. I was the one that interpreted it, and I'm the one that put it out to my faculty. My NECs, who then put it out to faculty. And I interpreted it absolutely incorrectly. I did draft a response to Vince Chi, letting him know that we had done this and what our outcome was and how we plan to address that. And we've done some in-services on that. And then I did both the presentations at CACN and COADN, letting them know that if you hold an active accreditation, specific accreditation, that you do not have to seek faculty approval through California BRN. However, if that accreditation were to lapse, your faculty would then need to be approved again by BRN. One thing that we have asked people to consider is faculty mobility. And if your faculty member in an approved accredited program wants to go to a program that is not accredited, it is beneficial to have a BRN approval, because then they can just continue with that approval and it can carry through. So it is not a requirement to do it, but it is an option to do that. Now, the great thing is AB 2015 is passing. And so what that did is a bill that we put forward from BRN to approve our process. Our faculty approval process was outdated and backwards, to say the least. It was a 10-step process. It happened at the end of the hiring, and it was really cumbersome and many times impeding. And that was something that we definitely heard from y'all and wanted to make those changes. However, BRN can't just change a policy, we have to change law. So that is why we went out and sought this. So what that new law does is anybody that holds an RN license can apply directly to the BRN for a faculty approval. It does not have to go through their school. And so one of the examples that I used in communication was that when you're looking, and please don't take this as any insult, but when you're looking to be a truck driver, you go get your CDL license and then you apply for your truck driving position. If you're looking to be a faculty, you should go and get your faculty license and then apply for a faculty position. And that is really kind of the focus that we went for. And it really kind of mirrored the Commission on Teaching Credentialing as well, that you can apply directly to, as a single person, to the Commission on Teaching Credentialing to be approved, to be a teacher. And what that was, had we done in the past, was you had to get chosen to interview at a school, you had to get chosen to be hired at a school, and the program director had to submit your requirements and your CV and stuff forward to be reviewed, and then BRN would approve it. Well, a lot of times after going through the search, having maybe several failed searches, and ultimately being chosen as a candidate, to hear BRN say they don't qualify was truly, truly problematic. And so that is why we asked for that to remove. Now, one caveat just to remember is it's gone through the legislative session. It does look promising, but it hasn't been signed by the governor yet. So we're holding out for that. We think that it will be signed, and we do expect that to be implemented Jan 1. We have the infrastructure to support it. It'll be very easy for all of the deans and directors to just go in when they're verifying that there's an RN license to see that their faculty approval is associated with that license. And so that was a big change too. We did put that on the license lookup. Now, when you look at how
Lori?
that compares, yes.
I'm sorry, may I'm not meaning to interrupt. I just wanted to give you a support. First of all, thank you to the BRN. Second, I found the statute. So just to, because you were saying I'm trying to look for it and talk, and so I wanted to say it's Business and Professions Code 2786.2. Again,
Yes.
Business and Professions Code 2786.2, which you were referencing it earlier, Lori,
Thank
which
you.
is for the nationally accredited programs that this was passed in Assembly Bill 2684 in 2022, I think, or 21. I can't remember what year it was. But I just wanted to give that to you because you were looking for it, and so I found it for you.
Awesome. And then the bill is AB 2015. So making strides. It is a fee-free application, so you do not have to pay a fee to become faculty approved. The other thing is, with that being tied to the license, we hope to provide a service very soon, because we have the address of record for all of our licensees. And you would be able to pull up the location of where faculty are, right? We'll be able to say that there are MedSurg approved faculty growing in this region based on this data. We will also show that MedSurg faculty might be decreasing in this region based on this data. So we really as long as we have the faculty approvals, right? And if you're in a school that's accredited that is not having them approved, that will not bolster that data. But we do hope that if that person has a prior approval or they seek approval outside of the school being required to do it, that we will have robust data that we can continue to put out. Now, to let you guys know about the differences in accreditation and approval, right? So BRN, as in order to have a student sit for the NCLEX, they have to have individual state BRN approval of their nursing program. There were 2 states that kind of deferred to accreditation, and those have changed. Those have gone back to the board approval because of the travesties that occurred in those states. Less BRN oversight in Florida led to Operation Nightingale, where there were accredited schools that were issuing fake transcripts and diplomas. So they've been able to gain some of that back. And that was truly a public safety issue. And that is something we definitely want to avoid in California. The other one was Utah. And that is going back and looking forward to becoming more board approved and less accreditation based. There is a difference between governmental oversight and private sector oversight. I think we can partner together well, but there is a difference. Now, CCNE, which is one of the accreditors, they ask that the faculty be experientially prepared for the areas in which they teach. They ask that the faculty who are nurses hold current RN licensure, and that faculty teaching and clinical practicum courses are experienced in the clinical area of the course and maintain clinical expertise. And then it says clinical expertise may be maintained through clinical practice or other areas. So you can see that the BRN closely aligns with CCNE. The only requirement that is different is we put a date that says 5 years. However, CCNE does not specify a date. They just say that they must be clinically practices maintained through other avenues. Now, the other one that we can look at is ASIN, and ASIN says that they want the faculty to be educationally qualified as required by the governing organization and regulatory agencies. So they defer to the state boards of nursing, which is our requirement. And then on the faculty, on standard 2 for ASIN, it says faculty are educationally, experientially qualified for their assigned roles and responsibilities. They maintain expertise and are regularly evaluated to support the achievement of the end of program student. Learning outcomes and program outcomes for each nursing program, and additionally for graduate programs, the role-specific competencies. They want them to continue on with that. They need to maintain current expertise in their teaching responsibility, including standards of clinical practice. And they need to meet the regulatory agents' requirements for skill laboratory or simulations as applicable, and for clinical practicum learning environments. And so you can see that ASIN defers to BRN or other boards of nursing. So we are absolutely in alignment with ASIN and very, very similar with CCNE. And then if you look at NLN CNEA, which is the last nursing accreditation, excuse me, it says that all nursing programs employ full and part-time nursing faculty, program faculty, including non-nursing faculty, who are qualified by education, professional credentials, and experience for their assigned teaching responsibilities, and at minimum meet qualifications set forth by state and other relevant regulatory agencies and professional nursing organizations. So again, NLN CNE defers back to the state boards of nursing and our requirements. And then they state that they maintain the professional practice knowledge base required for their assigned teaching responsibilities through current engagement in nursing profession and relevant direct or non-direct patient care, direct practice, sorry. So you can see that we align very, very closely with the national accreditors. We do put a requirement for 5 years. And what that does for people that are seeking or obtaining accreditation, we show them our faculty approval and they are granted. The accreditors accept those. So that is some schools that have accreditation have continued to choose to seek BRN faculty approval just to help bolster that they meet the requirements of their accrediting agencies. There is no question at that point that they meet them. There's no additional work that they have to do. They just say that they're California BRN approved and they meet that faculty recency requirement hands down. So those are some of the things. The other thing that that I wanted to point out with that is that we have, based on the sunset bill that Garrett was able to share, thank you again, is it had us align our continuing approval visits with the accreditors. And so any program that is accredited, we go in with the accreditors. We accept the report that is given to the accreditors, and we stay on that accreditor schedule. So we used to, and we still do for non-accredited programs, do a every 5-year continuing approval visit. But now if you are approved and accredited, and your accreditation says we're not going to come back for 8 years or we're not going to come back for 10 years, we now align with that 8 or 10 year time frame. So there's been a lot of change on that unnecessary and redundant oversight. And we, I believe, are moving forward in having that alignment. This last year has been one of the first years that this has really just been kind of a full year of doing that. And we've had a lot of really positive feedback from the programs that have gone through that. So at that point, on concern number 1 on the faculty, I open it up for questions, comments, further concerns, or
Lori,
to
I'm
see
just
that
looking
answer.
at the time.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to cut you off by any means, but I'm thinking we probably should end this conversation by 12:30, because if 7 groups have to report out their progress and we give them 3 minutes each, that's 21 minutes. So I'm just trying to work backwards.
Yes.
So, and I don't, and I'm very thankful to you and explaining how the BRN has been, approaching this. I think it's a dialogue and a conversation, and I would welcome comments, and we can do that shortly. If there are, because all transitions are a little bit messy, and so there's going to be hiccups along the way, and so NEWAC and also I think the BRN, because I think that you've been very open and welcoming of comments, would encourage the dialogue to continue to happen. And so we do have an email address. I think it's, and I've been messing up today, so you'll have to correct me. I think it's NEWAC at dca.ca.gov. So keep your comments coming, even if we can't get to you today. We welcome written comments to the NEWAC email address, and and Lori sees all of them, so she will be able to sort them in the right direction.
And
so
one clarification for you, Garrett, we actually have our meeting scheduled on 2:00 today. So we have ample time to do pretty robust discussion. Yes.
I don't know what's happening today. I think the stars are not in alignment for me. So feel free to have more conversation. I would like at least, if now that we have that, I think I'd like at least 45 minutes for the last, if that's okay.
Yes. Yeah, we can move through this. This was probably the most in-depth one with changes. And so I want to make sure that we have a lot of focus on that one, just because that's the one we've done the most change to so far. And so any questions, any comments from NEWAC? Kimberly, you as well. And then I'll move on to number 2 and number 3, which should be pretty quick. And I can even put those together.
No, I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Awesome. Any comments from NEWAC committee before I go to 2 and 3? Nope. Okay. Number 2, that one is the inconsistencies of interpretation and application of regulations and requirements by the NECs. We're all learning. That's all I can really say is we have made so many changes since and during COVID in these last 4 years that we're still finding things that may not be absolutely clear to everybody. And they are doing their best. And when we're presented with a new way to look at it, we want to bring that forward to other people. And most of the times that change allows for greater flexibility. And just as the example, when I was meeting with the heads of some academic institutions when we were talking about the faculty bill, and they said, Lori, I don't think you're interpreting that correctly. And I was like, wait, what? I'm pretty sure I am. And we went back and reviewed it, and we found that we weren't. And so that's when we changed the way that we required the faculty approval. And then obviously once that was put forward to me and we had legal review it, and we met with legislative staff as well, then I had to go out and train the NECs. The NECs have had to adapt to that as well and move that forward, and then provide additional clarification out to you guys. So we appreciate you guys bringing this forward. If you guys have examples, we would love to hear specific examples so that we can address them. But one of the other things that changed during COVID, which we don't get to highlight many positive things, but one of the positive things that happened during COVID is the move to a more remote focused and remote supported meeting structure. And our NECs meet at minimum weekly as a whole. They used to meet north and south separately, and we used to come together as NECs quarterly, and then that actually decreased to annually. And now it is weekly. All of the NECs participate in orientation of every single new NEC that is hired. Instead of having a single one, they come together, they collaborate, they discuss items, and they work with that new NEC. And then we provide education down as anytime we receive a legislative update or a regulatory change. We do education to the supervising NECs. The supervising NECs provide that education to the NECs. And then if there's ever follow-up or questions and stuff, that continues to happen. So we hope that with the increased time, increased focus, the collaborative measures that our NECs have, that those inconsistencies will resolve. And I believe most of them are, with the exception of new processes and procedures. And there's a ton of new processes and procedures that we're putting out and we're trying to update and streamline. And with the aligning of the 3 accrediting bodies with what we require as an approving body, that has been difficult, to say the least. It is a huge undertaking. We were very happy to do it, but it has required some additional in-depth look, discovery, changes, and further education. So keep bringing those examples to us. We will continue to work on them, but I am very positive that the NECs are doing an amazing job, and they'll continue just to do that. But bear with us as we all make the changes. The next one is high fees for certification and nursing education. And one of the examples put forth says that substantive curricular changes are $2,500 to $5,000. And then talking about the exorbitant fee of $300 for new licensure and $125 for renewal, and we'll discuss that. So we removed all the fee floors in our last sunset bill. All of our fees were set at the statutory minimums. So I could not decrease them down even if I wanted to. So the very first step that we did was reach out in sunset and said, please remove all of our fee floors. And they did. They removed all of our fee floors. The other thing that we did in statute is we removed the fee for any curricular changes put forth by schools. Schools no longer, private, public, ADN, BSN, ELM, any of them, have to pay any fee for curriculum changes. The only fee that they pay now is the $40,000 to start a new program, and the $2,500 for a substantive change. That is not a curriculum change. So if you need to update your curriculum, whether it's major or minor, if you need to do any other changes, none of those come with a fee attached. The only one is the substantive change, and that is typically a new campus location or an enrollment increase And that is the one that follows the same guidelines that the new program does that charges $40,000. That is a lot of staff work to get through that. And the way that BRN is structured is we are a special funded board. We receive all of our operational budget from the fees that we collect by our licensees, including our schools. And we are required, as being a governmental agency, to pay for the services and to pay for our staff time. And so that is the only school-based fee out there, and that is for a substantive change to either move your campus, start a new program, and that's the extent. All other fees that had been incorporated, ones for continuing approval visits, ones for major curriculum revisions that had went into place a few years ago, were removed. So that no longer is a barrier. The addition one that is talked about is the public health nurse. The public health nurse certification fee currently is being waived by HCI. HCI is paying for all renewal and all initial PHN fee certifications. It is of no cost to the applicant or the licensee on renewal. The other thing that was done this year, and this bill looks like it's passing as well, I believe it's just pending signature by the governor also, is that the PHN fee will only be for initial certification, and you will no longer be required to renew the public health nurse certification. That public health nurse certification will be good as long as your RN license is current. So we rolled that back. That was a previous law that public health nurses had, I believe, prior to 2018, where you just received your PHN certificate once and you didn't have to do a renewal. And that is something that we asked to be done, and it is moving through right now as we speak. The other
Can I just give the bill number,
yes,
please? Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's AB 2471. Again, Assembly Bill 2471, authored by Assemblymember Jim Patterson. So thank you to the BRN for, again, listening to the public and then working with Assemblymember Patterson. AB 2471.
Yes. Now,
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to give you said it, and then I wanted to give the number.
Perfect. Yeah, we are. I'm hoping that that's really kind of the pathway forward that you guys are able to see, is that you guys are bringing these to us, and we are working diligently to try to get to some kind of solution for you guys. The other thing that we did with the PHN, which was missed, is when we asked for our fee floors to be removed in the sunset bill, we missed the PHN section and we did not remove that fee floor. So with this bill, it has been updated to remove the fee floor of the PHN initial certification. And that will allow us, when we do a desk audit, to see if we can alter or decrease that fee. Now, the good thing is, and this is where I will tie into the public health nurse as well as the RN California grad. We have done multiple improvements in our licensing process. The California grad is now a hands-off process. Because our NECs approve the curriculum and approve our programs, we've been able to create what's called a new graduate portal. I'm stumbling over my words, sorry. And what happens in that portal is the approved program dean and directors and assistant directors can log into that portal. No transcript is needed because we don't need to verify transcript. We've already approved your curriculum. And you guys just go through your list of students and say, yes, they've met the educational requirements. As soon as the director signs into that portal and clicks yes, essentially, that night, that information is passed over to Pearson VUE and they get their authorization to test. The Pearson VUE then sends them out an email saying that they have it, and it is within days. And then they can take their test. If they pass their test, that is again an electronic process where they give us our pass details. And that midnight, that night, that RN license is issued as long as we have the fingerprint results back. And so that changed from a 3 to 6 month process especially on high grad seasons, to a few days with no hands-on work necessarily required by our staff. Additionally, what was put into place is that portal is also used for public health nurse certificates in California. And so the program director, if they have a bachelor's program and they meet the criteria for PHN, can go in and grab them that same way. And it is auto issued that same exact way. And as well is if you have a bachelor's degree on your licensure, and you later in California decide to apply for a PHN, we can pull that bachelor's degree information forward and grant you your PHN without any additional information provided. Because of those streamlining effects, we will be able to go back now that we will have those fee floors removed to do an audit, a desk audit, find out exactly what kind of staff time is involved, and we will be able to evaluate that fee to see if we can lower it. Our whole purpose is to lower the fees to align with the work that is being done and to support that. So by removing the fee floors, by having these updated bills go through to make those adjustments, I firmly believe that we will be able to very soon look at those fee schedules, update California Code of Regulations 1417, and align our fees. But as a governmental agent, we have to put several things in order to get there. And we're stacking all of the pieces in order. We'll be able to have that put forward soon. So I think that you guys will also see that we've addressed 1, 2, and 3 very well in the last 4 years, working up to continuing to address those. But now I do want to open up 2 and 3 to you guys for further questions, any kind of concerns that you guys might have, or additional items on 2 and 3 before we open up number 4 and wrap this up.
Great, thank you, Lori. Really comprehensive and good information. Wanted to open it up to the NEWAC members. Any comments?
I'll just say something really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tammy.
I have to clear my throat first to talk. I was just going to say how thankful we are for the new system of approving those students. Oh my Lord, that used to be so onerous. So now it is a click of the button, and literally within a day or two, the students here, they're tested and ready for work. Perfect.
Yeah, I have to give credit to DCA's OIS guru, Jason Piccioni. I reached out to him early on and I said, Jason, we got to fix this. And he's like, have you thought about this? And I was like, wait, what? That can be done? Let's do it. And so I would love to take ownership that I created that myself. I did not. He is fantastic. We've been working very, very well together to try to streamline and use as many new IT options as possible. And with a lot more to come. So the last one is the statewide survey. One, I just want to let everybody know I haven't seen that survey yet. I would love to get a copy of it. I would love to see what the questions were. I would love to see what the outcomes were. And I would love to do a systematic review of that to ensure that I'm able to address those or find out if it's even BRN requirement that needs to be addressed. What I've noticed in the past 4 years of doing this is there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think a lot of times just clearing up some of the misinformation is really changing within academia. Where BRN has been seen as a barrier previously, we're really hoping to show that BRN is not a barrier, but that we are kind of guardrails, right? We're that public safety guardrail. We are not a barrier. And so what we allow by having that public safety focus is to kind of keep everything kind of in alignment and make sure that we don't end up having some unintended consequences and any other issues that come out from that. And so I would love to do that. Some of the examples that we've discovered over the years is I had a dean or a director come up to me and say, you know, your attendance policy is outrageous. I cannot maintain that, especially during COVID. And I was like, wait, BRN does not have an attendance policy. What are we talking about? And they were talking about the 10-day last date of attendance. That's federal financial aid. That's not California BRN. So we were able to redirect that. But that was definitely heard by many, many program directors because that is what they had thought. It was BRN. There is another one that said BRN has a ratio of 10-1 in clinical settings. BRN does not have a clinical setting ratio. We do not have a 10-1. We have no ratio, in fact. We have qualifiers that say you have to look at the needs of the acuity of the patient. You have to look at what the hospital requests. And we really put it out to you guys. We do not have a clinical ratio. You can do 15-1, you can do 20-1. You have to be able to justify it on your review. And so there's not a 10-1. And sometimes the 5-1 or the 6-1 ratio is facility specific, and it's not BRN at all. Some of them said BRN requires us to be in person. No, that again is not a BRN requirement. That is your degree granting institution and the U.S. Department of Education. So if you guys set forward as you guys are a hybrid, or you guys are an on-ground, or you guys are an online school, we look at your curriculum, we look at your program. We don't have any requirement for online, on-ground, or hybrid. Another concern that was brought to us was, excuse me, whether or not you guys can do telehealth as clinicals. We were one of the first states to adopt telehealth as a direct patient care ability. And when you look at the definitions in California law that the telehealth is a modality to deliver direct patient care, well, we can't argue with that. That's accurate. It is still direct patient care. It's a modality of delivery of that. We've adopted that, and that is something that could be done as well. There was asks on whether or not BRN required faculty to be present at the bedside when students are present. No, we've never had that requirement. There's many things that can be done, especially with the example that's used in preceptorship, where there is no faculty present for preceptorship. So there is not a faculty requirement at all. And in fact, we defer to how you guys have that set up. So there are many things that I believe a lot of people think that BRN holds that are restrictive. And I think as we learn about those, I'm able to provide some clarification that we are not as restrictive as originally thought. So if you guys are willing to, I would love to get a copy of that statewide survey. You can, you know, remove any personal information, any identifying information or whatever. I don't need any of that. Not intended to be punitive in any way, so I don't need that. But if there are themes, if there are examples, I would love to work through those and see what we can do to get those addressed.
Thank you, Lori. And just to let you know, it was a study that I did with, sorry, and it's published, it's a published article. So I could work with you. And then the first author is Dr. Lynette Appin, who was at Evergreen Valley College as part of her DNP program. And so she and I and two of her committee members, we did the survey. So
how long ago
let me
was that
check
survey,
in with Dr. Appin and see what we can do. I'll have to go back. Dust off. I can barely remember how long we're supposed to have this meeting, so I don't know what the criteria were about sharing the data.
Yeah.
So let me dust that off and
I'm
get back to
hoping,
you.
honestly,
but it was pretty significant that 78% of the respondents of the deans and directors really did say that this was an issue. So
yeah, and you know what, honestly,
on that.
I would love to work on that. I'm hoping that the data is a little bit old and that we've been able to continue to make progress on that. So
It's continual process improvement, right?
It
So,
really
thank
is.
you and
And
appreciate
so,
your openness and willingness.
yeah, if there are things that you guys are seeing that we are able to address as BRN, I would love to be able to do that. I think one of the big things that we really have some issue with is just who holds that regulatory guidance. Is it the Community College Chancellor's Office? Because I can't change that. Is it the CSU's Chancellor's Office? I can't change that. Is it the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education? I can't change that. Is it U.S. Department of Education again? I can't change that. But if it is BRN specific and it's not a requirement that we need to have for them to, take and pass the test, if it's not a patient safety or a public safety issue, we are happy to explore that and see what we can do to align as much as we can so at least it's not duplicative. But there are federal and state requirements that we can't change that are in the vein of being public protection. And at that point, I think we can look at those processes to see maybe we can streamline or make them more clear or less cumbersome. And I think those are things that I would even explore at that point too.
Great. I also would encourage any dean or director or faculty member or whoever who wants to bring this forward to NEWAC's attention. You can also CC NEWAC's BRN email. So the email address is brn.newac at, let me get this right because I've been not doing great today, at dca.ca.gov. So it's brn.newac at dca, which is the Department of Consumer Affairs, .ca.gov. And if you just want to CC us on any of the things that anybody has been challenged with, we will make sure, because I want to, the letter is important to us on NEWAC. And so we want to make sure we're following up on things that are being brought forward by the public to be good citizens and, committee members to all of you, the public. So we welcome that. So any other comments? I think there was a slight clash of speakers earlier when Tanya was speaking. Was there another person who wanted to say something?
Yeah, this is Carmen. I just wanted to really kind of emphasize how, what Lori, what Melby just explained about everything that the BRN and BRN staff have been doing is pretty impressive, particularly since the most recent sunset. And I really congratulate the BRN for all of the work that you've done in terms of trying to make sure that these issues and concerns that have been raised are addressed. And I think it's really important that the state and the BRN look to maintaining those guardrails and making sure that everything's working properly, so that the BRN has the funding and the staff and the policies available for your NECs, for everyone at the BRN, to make sure that patients are protected by making sure that our nursing programs and our students are educated in to provide high quality care. And I think it's really great that you're the ongoing conversation, and if there's anything that NEWAC can do in our subcommittees to make sure that the progress keeps on going, I think I'm glad that we're having this conversation. And thanks again to Lori and the BRN's work on all of these issues.
I'd like to thank you all as well for the conversation, for your attention to the concerns, and for all of the work that you've done. I appreciate you taking this much of your time in this meeting to address these. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Any other NEWAC committee members want to say something? No? Okay, great. There is, just again, want to make sure I've got this correctly. Discussion and possible action. I don't know if there's a motion to be had here. I really value, EOMLB's, update. We can, does anybody have a motion?
It could be information only. It does not have to have a motion at all. So this was more just discussion with a possible action. So there's no need for an action at all, and you can go right out to public comment.
Yeah, great. I was just reading through the agenda, and it says discussion and possible action. So I'm not suggesting that we have a possible action. I just wanted to see if anybody wanted to have an action because I wanted to entertain that action. But hearing no action requested, we can open it up for public comment. Thank you. Mark, please.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in the request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give reminders as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." And Judy Corliss would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Hello.
Judy, go
Yes.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. I fully concur with the letter that was sent on by the COADN and CACN. And one of the concerns I have lately, and I've been at every meeting since Janine and I served on the board together, we're telling the new schools that come to the board in the last year, they've turned down 4 when they've met all the regulations to start a school or to add a new campus. And I don't remember ever doing this during my tenure on the board. We have the regulations set forth, and I think to deny them when they've brought forth everything that they need to do is really a disservice. But I know that the displacement issue was the #1 reason. And now that we've reduced the clinical hours to 500, I think it's going to level out. And it is very hard to expect the schools to go to every school around and say, "Hey, we're going to add a program," because it's like pitting the directors against each other. And you wouldn't want to ask Ralph's if the Albertsons can go down the street because they're going to say no. So we kind of got rid of that. And I guess it's now back into play where we have to do that. But I think if we come forth with all of the regulatory processes met, that to deny people when they've spent millions of dollars buying a building and ready to go and then be told they have to go to another city is really concerning. And it's something I think we need to look at and speak with our board members about. And I do understand the clinical placement very well because I'm out there trying to get clinicals for students all the time. So I appreciate the ability to be able to speak here. And maybe we can take a look at that going forward. So I do appreciate all of your hard work and the COADN's input. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify, there is no requirement for schools to contact every single program and to do that. So what changed was an update to California Code of Regulation 1432. California Code of Regulation 1432 added for new campus locations that they follow the same procedure as new programs, and that's the EDP IO1. And so on 1432, this was just updated in a regulation change that said an approved nursing program shall not make a substantive change without prior board approval. These changes include change in location, change in ownership, addition of a new campus or location. The approved nursing program applying for a new campus or location, and the board will follow the process defined in the board's document entitled Instructions for Institutions Seeking Approval of a New Pre-Licensure Registered Nursing Program or addition of a new campus or location to a currently approved nursing program, EDP IO1 revised 9 of 23, which is incorporated in section 1421. So what had occurred previously, which was asked to stop by the California state, the California auditors, was that we stop having programs get letters of support or letters of denial. And that is 100% we stopped. Now, the EDP IO1 has been in our law for many, many years. And it was used for new programs. And then now with the update to 1432, it is used for new campus locations. And so the statement that is required to be looked at is underneath the feasibility study, and I'll talk what that feasibility study is and what a self-study is in that approval process. So in the feasibility study under G, it says evidence of availability of clinical placements for students of the proposed program. Include a list of the clinical facilities that may be utilized for learning experiences and a description of any plans for future addition or expansion of health facilities. Provide a completed facility verification form for each healthcare facility that has agreed to provide clinical placements for students of the proposed program. When available, verification shall include the accommodation specifying shift and days. Note, clinical placements of new programs must take into consideration the impact on the use of the clinical facility by existing pre-licensure registered nursing programs and must be coordinated with any process for clinical placement, such as a consortium for regional planning. Include a description of your collaboration and coordinating efforts with any existing registered nursing program and any regional planning consortium. So this is part of the step-by-step document that is utilized for new campus or new program. And that was something that was not being completed. So these programs have come in front of our board asking for approval from this process, and they've been told to come back with more information addressing this legal requirement. Nobody has been told no. They have been deferred, and deferring is what we call taking no action. So we are deferring taking a action to approve, or deferring taking an action to deny, because we are allowing them to come back to the board with additional information. We have asked them to consider a new location. We have not told them to do a new location. And we have asked them, if they are not able to consider a new location, to provide an alternative solution if there has been a negative impact or perceived negative impact to the schools around them. That's part of our guardrails for public protection, right? Is if we've got programs in that area that are having a difficult time getting clinical placements, it would not behoove us to put another program in there, which would then mean all the students that are enrolled in the current programs would have more difficulty progressing and graduating. And as you guys know, through COVID, progression and graduation is huge. So those are some of the things that our board are taking a look at with that being filled out. Now, an example was Westcliff University. Westcliff University came forward and said, hey, we want a new campus and we want it in Irvine. Well, we knew that Irvine is very impacted. What Westcliff did is they went and decided to keep their main location as Irvine, but that they would do a hybrid offering, and all of their clinical placements would be done in Apple Valley, in Lancaster, etc. And so they were able to keep their location that they had invested money in, that they were able to have, but their clinicals are not going to be in the Irvine area. And in fact, they're not going to be impacting anybody in that community. They brought back that information and they were able to seek approval, and that worked out quite well, and they were very happy to go through that. When we were updating 1432, the key is to really differentiate between what a feasibility and what a self-study was. And the requirement that was made right here is that said that they've invested all of this money already. That is not our ask from the BRN. The BRN is that you put this feasibility forward, gain approval, then invest, right? So the programs are investing prior to gaining approval. And that is definitely problematic and will impact them in a negative manner. So by putting the geographic area that you want to serve, by putting a description of the community, by describing what you guys want, and the board being able to evaluate that ahead of the investments, the board will say, yes, go ahead. And then at that point, that's when it says in the review of the feasibility, once we get to that and it says a step 5 says board action on feasibility study. And it says the following action will be taken within 10 days after the board's decision. The feasibility board will notify the program in writing. It goes on and on and on about whether or not we accept it or not. Step 6 is where you appoint the program director. So if you've got a program director hired ahead of the board accepting your feasibility study, you're ahead of the game, right? And that is out of sequence of what is required by our board. So put all that stuff forward, do the feasibility. If the board says yes, invest your money, get your program set up, and we will then make another visit that we will review to ensure that you've met all the requirements. And as soon as you've met all the requirements of the board, then you're able to open and enroll students. Now, this is something, as Judy Corliss mentioned, that is different than in the past. Absolutely, because what was happening is people were doing exactly what the complaint is right now, where they were investing loads of money and the board was like, I'm not able to make that decision today. And they were losing money because the more money they have time in money invested, the longer it takes. And so that's why the board said, when we're looking at this, please come in front of us first, show that this is an ask that you want to do. Let us say, yes, this is good, move forward. I don't see any negative impact on the community. I don't see any negative impact on the schools already. Invest your money, move forward, because we've given you the go ahead. And now all you need to do is check the boxes to say you're in compliance and you're a new program. So really trying to answer what Judy has brought forward as an issue, which is why this upfront change and vetting has now occurred, so that that investment is not there. The other thing is that $40,000 is not removed. You're able to continue to use that as we work to getting you approved. We have not denied a single program to date.
Thank you, Lori. I'd like to go to the next public comment, please. Mark, do you see NP watching? Is that a correct up to date?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was talking and I was muted.
Oh, sorry.
My turn. Sorry, NP watching, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I first of all, thank you for letting me comment. And I just want to say, Dr. Garrett Chan, I think you are doing a wonderful job. Thank you for chairing this meeting. And based on some of the other board meetings and committee meetings I've attended recently, it feels a little scary. Forgive me in saying that it feels like when reviewing the medical board's website, it's very clear, like how you can attend the meeting and how you can public comment and what the rules are. And then it feels like with our meetings, and Mark, you're very accommodating and respectful, and I feel like it's very fair. So thank you. But I do feel like when we comment that recently, Miss Melby, you have become quite defensive. And in the last board meeting, I feel like you were merely protecting the interests of the board and making sure that the speakers and stakeholders heard what you wanted them to hear and not what the experience of some of the nurses have experienced. And I just would like to say that I appreciate everything you're stating, but in respect to some of the decisions made about data, I don't feel that some of the things going on in enforcement have been in respect to the data and NCSBN and their recommendations. The California specifically is not following their recommendations concerning enforcement. So Dr. Chan, thank you for thank you for suggesting that people speak up. I appreciate you and I appreciate this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And if I understand it correctly, you were making reference to enforcement, which is outside the scope of this particular committee. However, we welcome, and that's, I think, one of the things that we're trying to do in the world today is how do we create forums where people feel like they belong and they have a voice. And we will continue to work very hard and accept any kind of feedback where we can do better. And I appreciate your comment. And we're all here together and we're all here to support each other. And I know that EOMLB, has always been in the corner of people, and I value that. And yet we all welcome, comments that can make us better. So thank you so much. And if there's anything else that you would like to submit to us, remember we are always available through our email, which is brn@niwac@dca.ca.gov. And like Dr. Long had brought forward this letter from the Quad Council, we want to make it a very transparent process. And I know that EOMLB said that in the very beginning of her statements. And so we take it very seriously. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Garrett. And of course, I do have to redirect. I'm sorry. It is a legal requirement that NEWAC does not have any jurisdiction or authority over our enforcement or intervention program. There is some issues that are going on with intervention, and we are actively working to get to the bottom of those and to make some necessary changes so that we do align with the evidence, et cetera. I hope that it doesn't sound defensive, but I do need to also put that out there, is that public comment for the item on the agenda is the Quad Council letter that is being discussed right now. And so if we have more public commenters hanging out and ready to make a comment, it does need to be specific to this Quad Council letter. And we cannot hear any more public comment on our intervention or enforcement process. The time where that would have been heard, where it could have been heard, would have been the very first agenda item, where it is items from the public for request to be placed on agenda or a future agenda. And so that would have been where you could have voiced a concern, and we could have at that point as a committee said whether or not it was in our jurisdiction. And if it was in our jurisdiction, we could have then put it on a future agenda, but again, could not be discussed in this meeting today. And I know that sounds defensive, but it is a legal requirement. And in my role, I am implored to hold to the legal standards so that we stay in alignment with what we have to do as well. So thank you again for coming forward and speaking up. I do have to redirect you, though, to the appropriate place to speak up. And then just reassure you again that we are working on it. We have a committee meeting coming up next month where we will be discussing more of the enforcement intervention and investigations committee. And then in November, we have a board meeting coming up where there'll be more discussion on enforcement intervention investigations committee as well. So thank you for that. And we will continue to work on that.
Thank you for your comment. Committee Chair Chan, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no public requests for comments in HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is no motion, so there is no vote. But any last comments from the NEWAC members? All right, thank you so much. We can move on. And I, again, want to thank the public and the Quad Council for bringing this forward. And I think as things change over time and incremental improvements happen, there's always these rough patches. And the more that we can have concrete examples and, up-to-date examples, and again, sending that to the NEWAC email address, we will follow up on them and share them, distribute them wherever they're supposed to go, because not everything falls within NEWAC. And I'm just really excited about the public engagement. So thank you so much. We can move to the next agenda item. Unless if I've missed anything. Lori, am I okay to go?
No, you're good, but we're gonna move backwards to agenda item
Thanks.
6.0.
Let's go back to agenda item 6.0, which is discussion and possible action, and the report from the 7 NEWAC subcommittees, all of which are listed here on the screen, but also in your packet as well, meeting materials as well. So just wanted to, let me scroll back up to that agenda item really quickly. So one of the things, as you read in the meeting minutes, was that I made kind of a recommendation that was only a half recommendation, and I didn't, I guess, finish my recommendation, which was that I was going to go through all of the meetings that we've had since the beginning of NEWAC, and we talking about subcommittees, and start pulling together a list of topics. I did that, and then I sent it to the BRN, to Lori and to Reza on May 24th, and then did a deep dive into, well, what did we say in the meeting on March 7th? And I didn't say that we were going to disseminate it to all of the committee members. So we couldn't. So I have a list. The BRN has a list. May 24th, I sent it in. But didn't do that last step. So that was my mistake when we pulled all of that together. But things are available as we continue to move forward. So I guess one of the things that I like to do first is to see if there go through each of the different subcommittees and see if there's been any progress updates on the things that you've done, if anything. And it's okay if you didn't do anything, because you didn't get the list that I created because we couldn't send it to you. So with that being said, what I'm happy to do is also go through, send that list out to, or actually having the BRN staff send that out to you with all of the topics that have been identified by the public, because as people may recall, we've had conversations in this committee. We had held a special session in the summer of last year. And then we also had another robust conversation in September of last year. So there's a ton of ideas for the subcommittees to work on, in addition to perhaps, as the subcommittees move forward, thinking about the Quad Council letter and seeing if there's anything that the subcommittees might want to include in the work that you're going to do moving forward. So so with that, I'm going to go down the list of the different subcommittees and ask for a status update, and then we can figure out what we're going to do from here. So the first is simulation standards. So as people may recall, Sandra and I met with the public to think about what are the issues around simulation standards in nursing pre-licensure RN nursing education, to be very specific. We've had great conversations with the public, both subject matter experts, but also non-subject matter experts who are very interested in the topic. This committee has approved multiple requests to go forward to the Nurse Practice Committee, which is our parent committee, and the official board committee of the BRN, which moved things forward to the full BRN. And then the BRN reviewed all of our recommendations, and they did vote to move forward with promulgating regulations through the Administrative Procedures Act for regulations on simulation standards. That vote starts the process. People will have a lot of opportunity to kind of get in there, and Carmen, I know that you had some great suggestions, and I hope that as this continues to move forward through the process, this is really, for me right now, out of our hands. We've made our recommendation. It's moved through the process. Now it's really with the BRN and the Office of Administrative Law to move forward with this. But I really do hope that you keep an eye on those things and provide feedback that you so eloquently provided in some of our meetings before. That's where things are. I actually don't know. After it went to the full board, it kind of left my line of sight. So Lori, do you have any updates on that?
So we're still in the initial phases. We're trying to get a group of subject matter experts together, exploring with NCSBN what's going on with simulation standards and how we can best write those without impacting reciprocity. We want to still be able to license our out-of-state individuals as well as our international individuals. So we need to be careful in that so that there's not any unintended consequences, but that we can.
And I know that that was a big concern for you, and it is the right concern. And we very much appreciate you having your, finger on the pulse of that. So thank you. But for now, I don't have anything updated to say because we've done.
And we don't have
our
anything
work,
updated.
so.
We're still pulling everything together.
Great, excellent, thank you. The next committee on the agenda item summary is the clinical placement and impaction. Both members are not here, neither Joanne Spetzer, BBK, Barbara Barney Knox.
So I can share.
I don't think we have anything updated. Did you get any written update, Lori?
No written update. I can just share that we have met with BBK. We were not able to align both Joanne and BBK's schedule at the same time. But BBK was able to meet with us. We did have a pretty robust discussion, and they will continue to try to facilitate getting together on their end. And I'm sure they'll report out the next NEWAC committee any progress that they've made.
Great, thank you so much. The next subcommittee is the Cultural Competency Diversity Pathway to Nursing with Jacqueline Bowman and Jennifer Zhang-Moi. Jacqueline, have you had a chance to meet with Jennifer?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. No, I have not been able to meet with Jennifer. We haven't connected outside of this meeting. So I did receive an email from some folks on this committee asking if we were interested, Jennifer and I, in getting some assistance on how we might do some of this work. And I'm very interested in that because I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing here. So.
Excellent. Yes. Once we get closer to the end, I will make a recommendation, a motion to share. Again, I did a deep dive into all of the minutes to kind of pull out the topics that were identified, but I will make a motion at the end of this. So there's two things I'm hearing you say, Jacqueline, and I just want to be clear because I may be mishearing what you're saying. There's the content of what is it that the subcommittee will work on in this
Yes.
particular subcommittee. And then there's also some logistics questions. Am I hearing that correctly, or is that wrong?
That's correct.
Okay, so why don't we, if it's okay, why don't we go through everything? Because I think the logistics questions will be common to everyone, and then we can talk about what to do with the content. Is that acceptable?
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, moving to the next subgroup, the theory practice gap and new grad orientation. So Kathy Hughes and Wendy Hansborough.
Hi, everyone. So Kathy and I have not been able to connect as much as we would have liked, but we have a plan. So I do have a question, though, about this. And I'm sure all of you can understand why I have this question. Our charge is to, as I understand it, is to seek information from the public, and the public being, in this case, schools of nursing and clinical sites that hire our students, to gain information from them on their perspective on this issue in order to identify any opportunities that we might suggest collectively to improve both the education of our students and their preparedness for practice. Have I have that right?
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct. And there are other things that have been brought forward in this particular area. And it would be up to you and Kathy to determine what are the priorities, for
Okay.
you, and what you hear about for the content about what you're going to be um, recommending. NEWAC here is an advisory committee. And so what we would want to do is try to figure out, is there, and this will go to more of the logistics, like after you do, so the work that Sandra and I did was very clear, right? The legislature told us what to do, so we did what we were supposed to do. So, but for the other committees, it's a little less structured. And so we're going to have to think about, well, what are the outputs? What are the possible outputs of the work that you're going to be doing? I don't think that that's been necessarily clarified at this point in time.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
So
So an approach that we are considering is that, and the first step is that I think to get a handle on what is currently in the literature, because I don't know what the current evidence is on this topic. I don't know for sure what else has been published, and I think that's always a good place to start as a grounding. So that's one, is to do that literature review, which we've started. And then the next piece is to gather information from the public. And it seemed to us that the easiest way to do that might be to develop a survey that we share with folks, and through our professional connections. We can do that through our professional networks, that we would ask about, say, for example, the existence and description of their practice entry orientation programs. Do they have one? How complicated is it? How long is it? That kind of get a description of those things to see what people are doing. And then part of it would be perceptions of their new graduates' educational preparation for practice entry. So the survey would need to have both some quantitative and some qualitative opportunities for participants, for the public really to give us information. So that was the direction we thought we were, might be a good way to gather information from the public, and be able to perhaps reach quite a large sample of the public, because we want to make sure that we're capturing data from the state, not just perhaps from our local areas. So that leads me, so let me stop there and just say, are we on the right track?
I'll, I, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I defer to you and your expertise. If I may just add some of the other things that have come come up in prior meetings.
Sure.
Again, reading through the minutes, so they're all publicly available, is the question of understanding what the definition of quote practice readiness is. So when you talked about the literature search, I think some of the content might also help direct you in what you might look at. So that's just a suggestion, again, from the public. There was another comment, understanding the various offerings for mentorship and transition of practice. So that was another comment and a request from the public. So again, understanding the various offerings for mentorship and transition of practice. Another comment from the public was understanding the standards for new graduate programs and whether they're charged for participating in the programs. We've heard from other states that there's some programs that charge the learners, the new grads, to be part of a transition of practice program. And so we wanted to get a better understanding of that. And so, and then Wendy, you've also brought it forward in the previous meeting that you were doing a regional effort to understand the issue, and so bringing that forward. So I just wanted to share those topics that came up from the public that might help guide your literature search.
Sure, that's very helpful.
Survey that you might want to do. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would defer to you and your expertise around that.
No, that's really very, very helpful. And I've made those notes. I type fast. Question.
And Wendy, and I think what I'll be asking at the whole group is, because again, these are not from me, they're from the minutes, that I just kind of, the group NEWAC wanted me to do that last time, and I did it, so I put it together, but we didn't say I was supposed to send, or you were supposed to receive them. So
that's okay. That's all right. So now my last question is that, and I'm sure those of you who are in faculty positions understand this question, are we free to publish any of this findings?
Oh, I don't know. That would be a Lori question.
I mean, this is a lot of work, and all of us who are faculty have scholarship requirements for our promotion and, you know, where we're headed in this academic world. So this is a lot of work, and
yeah,
are we able to do that? And of
you
course,
got to get something out of it, Wendy. I'm all for
I know. To be honest, you do. And of course, if that were something I could do, I would absolutely get approval from our Human Subjects Protection Review Committee, you know, to do that, because you have to do that if you're going to publish anything. You have to have IRB approval.
So real quick, any information provided to the board, by the board, is all public. So do whatever you need to do it. It's a public available thing. Nothing is protected. So whatever you need to do, go ahead and do.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. That makes it a lot easier to do the work.
It does, because you can get credit for it too on your employment end.
Thank you, Wendy and Kathy. Look forward to the work of
Kathy, did you want to add anything? Kathy and I've been emailing back and forth.
No, I think that's good. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Wendy. Okay. The next work group is workforce retention. So that's Hazel Torres and Carmen Kumsky.
Thanks, Garrett. So Hazel is sorry that she couldn't be here today. The update from us is that we've met a number of times for the subcommittee on workforce retention. We're currently reviewing existing data sources on workforce retention, specifically Joanne Spetz's workforce forecast for nursing, as well as what other state agencies are doing, specifically the Department of Healthcare Access and Information, HCI. And we're looking at to see if there are any updates to Joanne's survey that could help with the data collection process of trying to get a little bit more information about, what are the issues related to workforce retention. And then, the larger thing that Hazel and I have really talked a lot about is trying to figure out what is within the BRN scope, what is within other agencies' scope, and really trying to hone down what, NEWAC can look at in terms of recommendations to the board. So we're really at the information gathering stage, and hopefully the very concrete thing that we have that we're hoping to do is looking to see if there are any suggestions that we can make on the the nursing workforce forecast that Joanne does biannually. So I think that's really something that's on our horizon, and we really appreciate the help from the BRN and trying to navigate some of these issues about what where the board's authority is in terms of workforce retention, and what really is helpful for the board to do, and what the board can do in terms of making sure that we're addressing the issues of workforce retention, but also recognizing that the board's authority is limited. So I don't know if you all have any additional questions, but I think just kind of for the rest of the of NEWAC, we're really looking at trying to review the other survey, like very similar to what we did with the education, the school surveys, the nursing program survey that we did earlier this year, or maybe it was last year. So that those are the things we've been talking about. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Carmen, and thank you to you and Hazel for your hard work. If I may just read what I pulled out from the minutes just to put in the parking lot. So I'm not saying that you should do any of these right now, but just to kind of put it on your your parking lot. There was a statement that or a recommendation to understand the moral distress and moral injury that nurses leading nurses to leave the bedside or direct care. And then the second comment, there were two, understanding how pre-licensure nurse training related to self-discipline. Again, these are the things that were said, so I can't give you more context, unfortunately, but understanding how pre-licensure nurse training related to self-discipline, time management, and advocacy and assertiveness training helps resilience in nurses. So I'll say that again. Understanding how pre-licensure nurse training related to self-discipline, time management, and advocacy and assertiveness training helps resilience in nurses. So
Thanks. That's helpful. And I will say, Hazel and I did talk about moral distress and moral injury, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. But it's a good example of like what we're looking at to see if there's anything within that we could make in terms of recommendations to update the workforce forecast survey in terms of capturing additional information around moral distress, and if that's something, and hopefully by next time, maybe I shouldn't uh
I'll be
no
waiting with
promises,
bated
no
breath,
promises,
Carmen.
no promises, but we will be looking at potentially looking at asking all of you for input also on updates to the forecast, the workforce
I love it.
forecast.
Thank you so much. Great work. Great thinking. I really appreciate it. Any other comments or questions for Carmen? Seeing none, Go forth and conquer. um, okay. The next group is curriculum standards and guidelines. Janine Graves and Saji de Guzman.
Saji has a report on that. Garrett.
Okay.
I was gonna ask Janine to go over it.
No.
I did bring my my copybook, but I can tell you about it. So actually, Janine and I already met several times and brainstorming on what we're going to focus on curriculum standards and guidelines. There's a lot of things I think we're looking at because, and also we had a meeting with Mel B already, and we discussed a lot of things, of course, regarding the curriculum developments, and there are things that we have to consider regarding changing policies and updating some of the standards because it will affect not only as maybe mentioned earlier, not only the I'll say local, the California rules or policies, but also international and those that nurses are coming in here. So we are still looking at that, and we also requested the like the curriculum standards that was suggested about 1990s, but we haven't received anything from um, Melby and others that we can look at, and we are rather futuristic on what we are looking at on our curriculum standards and guidelines, since I think a lot of organizations, mainly the CCNE and the NOMF, are actually moving the medicines actually also moving towards competency based education. So I think that's what we're looking for, and how are we going to approach this also on the boards on competency based assessments, competency based testing, on if we move forward on doing a competency based education for nursing. So there's still a lot of things that we have to discuss and to look for, but those are some parts of it. And this is also including AI integration towards the curriculum of RN, pre-licensure, and of course for the faculty members that needs to be trained on how to use or how to implement or integrate or incorporate AI into their courses. Of course, that right now it's a really big issue, and we have a lot of discussions on it. I'm actually here at the ICN conference in I was in Aberdeen and then went here in Germany, and we're discussing about a lot of those AIs and APN networks internationally. So there are a lot of issues concerning it. So I mean, we can discuss more. So I think the public also have a lot of ideas about those I mentioned already. I said we're rather futuristic on what we're looking at with our curriculum standards and guidelines. So those that are already there, I think Melby mentioned a lot of those last meeting, but I know those only needs updates on our guidelines. So it's not like a major change. I was also idealistic on my recommendations. I was looking at how this is actually my question. If we move forward for this competency based education, how are we going to assess or evaluate the competency? Are we going through the boards before licensure, or are we gonna leave it to the schools to do the competency based assessments? I think that's the question I will leave here for our discussions. I don't know if I think the public is listening, and if they have ideas about it. I just want to leave this also information that I have from Germany, that Germany is actually doing this for a long time. Their RN assessment has phase one and phase two. You're not getting your RN license until you get the competency. You have to go to a certain examination facility, and they'll ask you to demonstrate some skills about like stroke management or trach management or something like that. And that's where I'm looking at it. I was like, if they're doing it for a long time, how come, or how are we, if we are trying to move towards a competency based education, then I think we have to also ask ourselves on how are we going to implement a competency based assessment or testing. So I think it's for the future, but it's coming. So I know, Janine, if you still have, I mean, if you have other things to add on that discussion. Thank you.
No, that was a wonderful summary of all the things that we've discussed over our meetings. I think what was most exciting to us is, maybe exciting is not the right word, but certainly a challenge, as Dr. de Guzman mentioned, is the training of faculty on AI so that they can train the pre-licensure students. So that's going to be quite the hill to climb, and to arrive at consensus on how those applications fit, because across healthcare organizations, there's a big gap in the financial resources and the ability to control AI in a space that makes it safe for our patients. So we're really excited about our subcommittee and our topics, and would welcome any kind of feedback.
Great. Thank you, Saji and Janine. Just to kind of, you've hit on one of them. The two topics that came out in the minutes that I read were, of course, discussing the AI. So thank you for bringing that forward. It seems like it's a hot topic. And then the second was exploring the implementation of a statewide nursing curriculum throughout the state. So that was the other thing that came forward as a suggestion. And I think, especially after the previous, or the agenda item that we just came off of from the Quad Council, that would be a group that you probably should reach out to, and I think you have the contact information in the letter. So it will be very important to connect with that group and to see how they can help be part of the conversation. Great, excellent, thank you.
Thank you for
Keep
that.
up the good work.
One question and some information before you move on real quick on this.
Oh, yeah.
one. That was my fault, Saji. I completely dropped the ball on getting you that California curriculum. There was a California curriculum that was recommended statewide. I believe it was back in like 2009. It was not from the BRN, but we kind of helped to distribute it. I believe it came from the community colleges. I could be completely wrong, but I will continue to look to locate that. As an old program director, I had that disc for the longest time. I might still have it. I would have to open that box, and I'll look in there. I haven't been able to find it in our records. One of the things, really, just to put out there is we have no regulations around AI, so we would not be a barrier, and we have no guide rails as well. Note that the governor did do an AI order, that there have been some bills and some laws, some bills that look like they will become laws this year on AI. So definitely kind of take a look at that. If you're really interested in learning more on AI, there is the Little Hoover Commission. And that is put forward through California, and they have a series on AI. And that just gives you a good background on AI in general, not nursing specific, but they do have some information on nursing in one of their original videos of their meetings. Another thing to take a look at is kind of looking where NCSBN is going, right? Because we can graduate anybody, but we can't license them without them passing the NCLEX. So always keep kind of NCSBN in your forefront, because they are the ones that create the NCLEX and implement that and use that. So look at that. They utilize AI in a lot of their things that they do. And it is not necessarily rumored anymore, but it is projected that by 2026, they will be offering the next gen NCLEX remote proctored with the use of AI. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. With that said, it also goes into your question that you asked earlier on whether or not the BRN would do a competency-based test in order to grant licensure. Currently, that is a no. We would not. BRN has not historically established competence at all. That has always been up to the academic institutions for establishing competence of their students when they're going out into a clinical setting. And it has been up to the healthcare facilities to establish competence when they are employing them. We are a licensing agency, and we look to make sure that those requirements are met. And that licensing agency currently is that you have a clear background and you've passed the NCLEX and you've met our education requirements. So if those are to be changed and altered, again, and I know that I've really kind of drilled this and brought this home, and just look how it affects the other states, because the other states have not implemented any competency-based hands-on requirements for that to be done. And that would be a huge undertaking if that was something that were to come about. The one thing that you guys can do is any of these recommendations that you make, even if they are not adopted by the board as an updated reg or an update statute, does not mean that we cannot put them out. We can put them out and share them as best practice, right? And then schools can utilize them to however way they want to utilize them. So even if we can't change regs, we can absolutely put that information out as evidence-based best practice and have the schools be able to further their processes with that, as long as, again, they come in line for licensure once they reach us.
This is Kathy. I have a question. Wendy and I talked about it quite a bit in our conversation and our emails back and forth regarding entry level versus practice ready. And I know that Garrett had mentioned from the minutes that we needed to define, I think practice ready is what he said. And so my question is when we're looking at competency-based education, is the goal for that is to have new grads be practice ready versus entry level?
That's a great question, Kathy. And there's some literature out there that talks about varying levels of practice readiness. That it's more of a continuum as opposed to a destination. And the other thing about competencies, and this is where I really encourage, every organization or every subcommittee to connect with the California Association of Colleges of Nursing and the California Organization of Associate Degree Nursing, is that the American Association of Colleges of Nursing came out with what they called the New Essentials back in April of 2022, which is a competency-based education. And so there's a lot of there's 252, by the way, sub-competencies. So it's like I don't think they made it. I realize I'm in public comment, but I'm not sure if it's easier now, but there's a lot right now. And so CACN and COADN will have the latest information about what's going on in California. And then just, again, looking at the literature around practice readiness, it really is seen as a continuum as opposed to a destination. And so just kind of put that out there for thinking and discussion. And I know, Kathy, I'm not answering your question, so I apologize, but it's the best I can do at this point in time.
Garrett, I will share that the group that we met just before this meeting, our regional workforce group, I don't know what to call us. We have, I think I explained before, we have 3 arms. So one of our arms is the clinical placement functionality part, how you get clinicals and assign students. But today we talked about the data that we need to collect about our regional workforce. And that led us to competencies. And at one of our early meetings, we talked about needing to collectively agree on competencies for new graduates' entry to practice so that we have a common expectation of what our students come out of school with and what they present with to the clinical site. recognizing that competency, as you described, is a continuum, as Benner has told us now for what, the 40 years. And that it's competency for where they are at. And the AACN essentials, I look at them as the continuum. This is the goal, to have them eventually, but it's competency for the level that they're at.
I 1,000% agree with you, Wendy. 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, and I will share with you, we do once a semester, usually, we have a alumni group come and do a panel for our students, especially our students who are graduating. And one of the students said something very important. She said, I thought I was prepared when I graduated from school. I got into my new graduate program and I got hit with a fire hose.
Yeah.
And I think that was just really, it's what it is. Yeah. So
I'll just also suggest that there's a national organization called the International Consortium for Outcomes of Nursing Education. International Consortium for Outcomes of Nursing Education, which is tackling this. And I'm not yet another hat. I'm co-directing that program, that group. And really bringing Patricia Benner, Chris Tanner, all these folks together, Dr. Phil Dickinson, who's the president of NCSBN, together, because to your point, Wendy, we need to be clear on this, and we have not been clear. And to your point, this year is the 40th anniversary of Novice to Expert. It was published in 1984.
I know. I have the original article still.
Yes. So it's very exciting. I'm going to move us forward because I do want to have open public comment and get to the last group, faculty, Tanya and Tammy.
Hi, good afternoon. Tammy and I did meet and we got some general ideas of what we were looking at. And our idea was really to do a survey of deans and directors and see what faculty issues are there and what suggestions they have. We did go to the BRN because there is a joint meeting coming up in the fall, and we wanted to know if we talked about it there, would we be violating Bagley-Keene, because we know there would be at least 3 NUAC people there, and we have not, at least I haven't seen the answer come back. We didn't want to have a discussion about it there, but we wanted to kind of promote the survey at that meeting. And so it was going to be like a one-way conversation versus a discussion. And so we were waiting for some feedback from the BRN before we can move forward. Tammy, am I missing something?
Fine. Yeah, one-way sharing is fine in that that setting. You'll be fine with that.
Well, I was just going to say we met and laid the groundwork. We've got some plans.
I love plans. And I have no doubt that the plans will be executed beautifully because the two of you. Just a comment again to put in the parking lot for you. Comments from the public in past meetings, clarifying what the qualifications to become BRN approved nurse faculty in light of the regulations, but we just had a conversation about that, so that can help inform that information around faculty. And exploring factors related to faculty retention, preparation, credentialing, and salaries. I need not say more. You are all both very aware of that. So just being clear about those factors related to faculty retention, preparation, credentialing, and salaries.
And Garrett, this is Tammy, can I just interrupt that Quad Council did meet this week, and I just happened to be there because I knew Sandy wasn't able to attend. So the Quad Council, that is their goal for the year, is looking at, what can be done for faculty and faculty salaries. So I think it's, we can use some of their joint efforts as well.
Excellent. We're all in this together, right? Excellent. Before we go further, I just wanted to say for the record, Jacqueline, when you asked about your thing, there were 2 things just to bring this forward. Understanding education equity for underrepresented minority groups. This was in the cultural humility, diversity, and pathways to nursing. So understanding educational equity for underrepresented minority groups. And the second was exploring different pathways to nursing, colon, earn and learn, comma, apprenticeships. So exploring different pathways to nursing, colon, earn and learn, and apprenticeships. So I want to.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question, Garrett? I started writing them. I couldn't write it down fast enough, but is that in the previous minutes? Because I have the minutes here and I was going through it. Would that be in
I
the
looked at
minutes?
all the minutes. I think it was March of 2022, or sorry, no, the last meeting in 2022 and the 3 meetings that we had in 2023. So I looked at all of those minutes.
Okay, and they speak to the committee.
They speak to the topic that, so what I did was I took the content and then I placed it into the subcommittee because it seemed to match that. Because that's how we arrived to the committees, was based off of all of the things that the public said. And then we created the subcommittees based off of those groupings.
Okay, so if you don't mind,
Yeah.
if you repeat those 2 prompts, I'm going to say them out loud and capture them in my notes. But I'm going to mute myself. You know what I mean? Because I can't type it fast enough. Wait.
Okay. They're in the notes. So
Yeah, I can go through the notes too, the 2022 notes, or will they be in today's notes?
I can't remember. I didn't write what meeting they were in, but
Be in
Okay.
when
today's
I make
notes.
a motion, I'm going to make a motion that all of my notes go out to everybody.
Thank you. That will be helpful if they're in today's notes. That'll be perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely. I do want to give the public some time, please. So if it's okay, I guess I have to make a motion. Sorry. So I move that my notes from the minutes that I reviewed be sent to all of you so that you can have a background and put that in the parking lot or take it up as you so desire, so that you have some information to work off of.
And
That's
just to be
not a very
clear,
well.
in order for that to happen, Garrett, I will need to publish your notes under the materials for today. So we will
Perfect.
add
And
those to the materials for today so that they are public for everybody.
okay. Do I need a motion then for that?
No, you can just send me them again and I'll add it as part of the materials.
Okay.
And that'll be then on our website. We'll send an email to everybody saying that they've been added and they're there.
Okay, great. I will
Oh,
do that.
you're good now. We got you.
Got it. Thank you. So there is no motion. So we're going to open it up to public comment. Mark, please, can you go to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Judy Corliss would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Hi, once again, it's Judy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi. I have a question in regards to the simulation. There's been talk about possibly having all the faculty that teach simulation in the programs be certified. That's probably going to take some time. So in your directives, if you're going to write those, I guess we would have maybe a period of time that we could do that. It's going to be cumbersome to get everybody to, that works another job and is faculty at the colleges, because I'm at many colleges and they're working 2 and 3 jobs. So we'd need a little bit of time to get that handled. I'm sure you'll take that into consideration, but maybe also we would have a couple of programs here in the state that they could sign on to in addition to the simulation things that you join. I actually am a member of a couple of the simulation committees. So that would be a good idea. And I'm not sure if you're going to do that in this committee, or are you going to recommend a separate committee to come up with the standards of what we need to do with our faculty? Because there's a big variance in how things are taught off of the computer and the scenarios and that type of thing and all the subspecialties. So thank you for letting me speak, and I'll keep abreast of what you guys are doing in that regard and the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Judy, it's a great question. Just to, if you look back at some, I think it was, I'm sorry, the last I think it was the last NEWAC meeting in March. In the meeting materials, we did draft some, or no, it was the last meeting of 2023. We did draft some recommended regulations, and those are not going to be the final ones because it's going to go through the regulatory process. But we only recommended, if I remember correctly, only one faculty, and the director of the simulation program needs to be CHEESY certified. So CHEESY is the certification in healthcare education. So we only required one person
Okay.
to be CHEESY certified.
Okay, that's great. That'll help us a little bit with all the faculty we have at every school. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. Committee Chair Chan, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no public requests for comments here in HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You.
Okay, well, any last discussion points of the, oh, we should talk about, so Janine, you had asked, oh, not Janine, I'm sorry, Jacqueline, you had asked a question about logistics before and the, process and then the content. Through this conversation, do you think you have a better sense of what that might look like for you?
Yes. And I'm also going to look back at the notes for today and the 2022 materials.
Yeah, and pay close attention to the summer of 23. We had a special session where we invited people to speak about these various issues. And so a lot of that was in that particular session, but we did have stuff sprinkled that throughout our previous meetings.
That'll be great. Thank you so much.
Yes,
very helpful.
Absolutely. Any other comments from NEWAC?
I have just a little question. How do we submit a recommendation? I mean, I know Melby already told us that we can submit and yet the boards of nursing can decide on what to do with it. How do we submit? I mean, after we let's say complete our documentation and create our recommendations, do we submit to you, Garrett? Or to
no,
you submit to the NEWAC email address.
Okay.
Macaulay and I will grab that and meet with Garrett and Janine, and we'll make it as an agenda item.
Okay.
Then you will have a robust report out on that agenda item and share with what your ask is. And then there would be a motion coming from this group that would move your ask forward or ask for more information before they can move it forward. So that is where the subcommittee group comes to the full committee. And then the full committee can ask questions and offer suggestions, et cetera, at that point. Once everything gets that completed, and a motion goes to the board, then that's when the board will start looking at that. So you guys all receive emails from Macaulay a couple months in advance of the meeting that says, hey, I'm looking for agenda items. Reply to that and give us those agenda items. And that agenda item would be to discuss your subcommittee's presentation and asking for a motion to move forward.
Okay, thank you. and Janine will be writing. We will be writing our first recommendation. I think the hot topic right now is the AI, and then we'll do secondary for the competency based education. So we'll be writing that soon. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Great. Thank you all. We're at 1:59, so I'm going to adjourn 1:59.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the year. Stay cool.